Good evening and welcome to the last Fallout bar before Christmas as we go into a little break. Ready then as the round two is wrapped up, moving into round three. And Dob has got a night off tonight, so I'm in charge for one night and probably one night only. Dob will want it back by now, to be honest. And tonight I'm joined by Charlie and the man who seems to have been with us every night, give or take. And we promised him last night, even though we told us he wasn't coming on. But he is joining us. Tam, how you doing, mate?
Evening. How are we all? Yep. I was adamant that I was not on again tonight, and then I've been roped in as the late replacement once again. So here we are.
Charlie, yourself, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, really good. I enjoyed the darts today. Some incredible performances, some stunning comebacks, and just probably the one game that I'd want to forget about. But apart from that, it was a really good game, a really good day's game, and it sets it up nicely for after Christmas.
Yeah, I think you're probably about right there. There's a bit of drama in a few of these games, and not so much in a couple of the others. Which you'll notice when we come to speak to those, you'll see the ones that we sort of pass by a little bit quicker than the ones that have had an awful lot of drama. But everyone who has joined us in the chat room, thank you very much for joining then. Juanita, who was in the chat room about 3 hours ago. As always, Juanita, I saw this one come up that saying Juanita was first in, followed by second in about 3 hours later. So everyone else, and see Darren and Colleen, chat room, Tugboat. I have wished everyone a Merry Christmas Eve, and I've been told off by someone who's been a bit Scrooge-like. But we are going to go straight into the action because we've had 8 games of, like it says, probably the majority drama, and probably the most drama-filled day we've had with quite a few done-bats. Don't want to spoil anything for the people who don't know the results. As you can see, I'm throwing across the bottom of the screen. But we'll go straight into it with the Damon Heta against Luke Woodhouse, and we've just mentioned Juanita being first in. I'm sure she was first in because of that result coming in from Damon Heta being 3-1. Tam, your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, I thought Heta was pretty good, especially on the outer ring. He was pretty clinical, to be honest. I think he ended up 50% in the end, but Woodhouse had some serious chances, and it could have been a hell of a lot closer than 3-1. It could have quite easily have probably gone the other way, to be honest, but it was just that was the big difference, was the outer ring, and Heta took his chances and punished when he got the opportunities. And I think Woodhouse will be kicking himself a little bit. I think it was a big opportunity for him today. He scored really well, and just a little bit of composure was probably lacking on the outer ring.
Yeah, but you hit spot on there with Luke Woodhouse. We've come up with quite a few sayings recently. The big fish was introduced a few years ago. We've had Badals, Nobles, all them were introduced, but one that was years back was doubles for dough, trebles for show, or the other way around.
Yeah.
And that is what Luke Woodhouse has put on his Twitter. If anyone follows him today, he's just opened up with that comment, and that probably sums it up. Charlie?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, if you miss doubles like he did in, I don't know, Players' Championship, you look back and say, oh, I can go again tomorrow. But when he's missed as many as he did on the big stage, the one event that every single player wants to play in the year, you do feel a little bit sorry for him. And it could have been so much closer. But had Heta not been as clinical as he had, then he'd have probably looked back on it and thought, I've missed a chance here. But he was clinical. And really, at the end of the day, if you miss chances like that and there's someone like Heta who's in decent form, you're going to get punished.
Yeah, but and on Heta, Cam, we've speaking now about Woodhouse missing, I think it was 20 he missed throughout the game, but we saw Damon Heta at 50%, and if you can maintain anything around that mark throughout this World Championship, we know that all these players can score well, but if he can maintain that 50%, going into his next game against Peter Wright, can he trouble Peter Wright, do you think?
I think he can, yeah, definitely. I think if you're mid-90s average and 50% on your doubles, unless someone plays very, very well, you're going to win a lot of matches. And maybe that won't be enough to beat Peter Wright, but we also know that Heta can score a lot better than he did today. A couple of 180s in that match. Usually he's pretty deadly around the treble 20 as well. So he's got another level he can go to. And if he keeps that finishing along with putting 3, 4, 5 points on the average as well, then he can certainly trouble here, right?
And then I'm going to move on quite quickly from this one and move on to then what was a very, very high quality game that we had in game 2. Result made it look very one-sided. However, when you look at that both players averaged over 100, Brendan Dolan, Charlie, will probably walk away from this one thinking there's not much more I could have done today.
Yeah, I mean, I expected this one to go all the way, to be honest, when I saw them up against each other in the form that Brendan Dolan's been in. But Rids produced his A game today. That was some serious performance from Callan. And, you know, he obviously took the opener and he breezed through that. He then breezed through the second 3-0. And then the way that he rounded off the game was in impressive fashion. But Brendan will probably walk off that stage thinking I couldn't have done much more, to be honest, because he really came up against the Riot, who was, you know, in some serious form this afternoon. Yeah,
so just looking at those numbers in this one, Tam. So Talon Reed's 102.73, Brendan Dolan just over 100. But another one, nothing probably similar to the game prior. Brendan Dolan 23% on his doubles, with Talon at 64%, which in this sort of format is a ridiculous stat for Talon to hit.
Yeah.
And potentially, well, I would say actually not potentially, I'd say definitely Talon's best performance on a TV stage.
Yeah, I think he said as much himself after the game as well. I think it was pretty special from him today, because if you look at it, it was very, very even. They both averaged over a ton. He's only had one more shot at a double than Brendan's had as well, but he's just somehow managed to find 9 out of 14, right? Whereas Brendan's only found 3 out of 13, and that is the only difference in this game today. And it was all at the right time for Callan as well, and it just allowed him to go on and win those sets and run away with it and make it look like he's absolutely battered Brendan Dolan. And he didn't. It was a fantastic, really close game, but the final scoreline doesn't really show that.
Yeah, one comment I'm just going to touch on from the chat room, and then come to you, Charlie, on this one. Dolan would have beaten most of the other players today. Obviously, we've not touched upon all 8 games yet, but we have mentioned that it was more around the drama that has probably got us in today. And Brendan Dolan, yes, that check out percentage wasn't great. However, he wasn't given a shed load of opportunities by Talon. Do you think Brandon's right in that one, that probably Dolan was unfortunate and would have gone through if he'd have played the majority of that field?
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to average a ton and get beat 3-0 on many occasions. And he's got the consistency, and it was there today. It's just unfortunate that you come up against a player like Callum Rids who didn't drop off. So we have seen drops off in the games today at certain stages, which Brendan Dolan would have capitalised on. But when you average 100, you wouldn't really expect to come away with a 3-0 drubbing. So I think it's just fair play to Callum Rids for the performance that he put in and how clinical he was.
Yeah, and just going into then Talon and the performance, and as Tam's touched upon there as well, that he was the best performance. Let's hear from Talon after that 3-0 winner against Brendan Dolan.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's the best I've played on TV by an absolute country mile, but again, it means nothing if you play like the next game. But again, I'm going to go home, spend some time with my family, and then Boxing Day back in the practice board, ready for my next game. No, there's never a belief that I'll win it, but again, it's just game by game for me. If I got to the quarters, semis, I would probably think that there could be a chance, but for me, it's just game by game, and that's the way I've always thought of it. I've never thought about if I beat him, I've got a good run to the final or anything like that. I do look at the draw, don't get us wrong, but I just like turning up, play my darts, and then going. So again, when I play Nathan next, hopefully that's just the plan. Beat Nathan quick, and then we get to chill out again.
So yeah, he's touched upon it before. I mentioned it. Didn't know he was going to say it at the end about playing Nathan. Tam, what a dame that would be if Talon wins that dame and Nathan Aspinallton just find probably one more deer from where he was the other night. What a tie that would be.
Oh, it could be absolutely unbelievable. If Nathan plays like he plays last 2 sets of his game and Callum plays like that, we're in for an absolute thriller. It's just going to be unbelievable. It's about, like you said, I think you used one of my favourite words in there as well. If you play like a numpty in the next game, then it's not going to be any good. And that's the main thing for him, really, is backing that up, because that was the main reason I quite fancied Brendan to win today was the fact that the consistency, and we've seen from Callan, he goes through spells like he did today where he's absolutely unstoppable, but we do see him drop off as well, but he didn't do that at all today, and I think if he can do that again, then he's going to be very tough to beat by anyone.
And Charlie, just before I move on to game 3, not looking for predictions yet, but regarding this one in regards to Rids coming up against Aspinall's performances on that World Championship stage, we've seen him get to semi-finals and what he can do. Obviously, he's potentially playing with an injury at the moment. But do you think that Rids can get the better of Asp on that stage and maintain what he's done today?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. It's just whether he's kind of played his best already in the tournament. Like, can we see him recreate that performance? I mean, if he does, I think he goes very close, if not beats Nathan Aspinall. But it's whether he can recreate the performance that he brought today after Christmas. And if he can, we're in for an absolute classic.
We certainly are. And talking about classics, not potentially stats-wise, and I think what we've seen tonight, and I've seen quite a lot of people comment on socials that actually sometimes it's not numbers that produce good games. Sometimes it can be the drama, it can be missed doubles, and the Nets one certainly produced that with Mensur Suljovic going 2-0 up against Alan Suter. He then had match starts in set 3, had match starts in set 4, and had match starts in set 5. Overall, he had 8 match starts to beat Alan Suter, but it was Suter who came through with absolutely ridiculous, and for me, probably out of nowhere, because neither of them were throwing those big threat out to him, but out of nowhere, Alan Suter found an unbelievable 1-4-4 to win it. And Cam, I'll start with you on this one. Just where did that Suter come from?
I don't know. I really don't. He looked dead and buried at 2 sets down and 2 legs down, I think he was he? At that point, he looked like he had had no hope whatsoever. And then he got on a bit of a run, managed to get himself back into it. And then for the majority of the final set, he looked like he wasn't really in it. And Mensur kept going ahead, and then he kept fighting back and breaking back again. And then that finish at the end was just, like you say, out of nowhere. We had 3 ton pluses from Mensur before that, but they felt a long, long time ago at the point where Suter hit his. We were more missing doubles rather than getting anywhere near to a big shot at that point. And to pull that off under pressure there, where it was massive pressure as well, because if he doesn't take it, there's a good chance that he loses the match, because he's not got the throw in the decider either. So it kind of had to go there and then as well.
And Charlie, staying on Suter, for me, he's had a very impressive 12 months. If at the start of the year he'd have been offered what he's achieved, yes, it was a very good start to the year, and then it dipped off towards the back end. But now he's done into round 3. Now he's beat Mensur Suljovic, a seeded player. Even if Suter doesn't go on and progress any further, generally, your thoughts on Alan Suter's first year as a tour card holder?
Yeah, he's been really impressive, to be honest, and he's someone who I've liked the look of for quite a while. I mean, he really dodged a bullet today. Let's be honest. He shouldn't have won. He shouldn't still be in the tournament, but he is, and that's the beauty of it. It was quite an excruciating watch at times, and it must have been like that for the people actually in the arena, because you'd have thought at that time it had just been, when's this game going to end? But for him, it's a free shot, isn't it? The World Champs. He's got nothing to lose. What has he got to lose? He's had an incredible first year, and now he's in the World Champs. He's won his first game against Diego Portela. Granted, he didn't play very well, and now he's dodged a bullet against Mensur. So for him, it's just a free shot, and it's his chance to impress. But he'll need to up his game and be more consistent if he wants to go any further. But if he doesn't, I think he's had a great breakthrough year.
And Cam, I'm going to come to you in regards to Mensur. So when we talked about style montages for the past couple of months, they've all been around Fallon. Tonight, they've all been around Barney. However, I am going to touch upon Fallon in regards to the Fallon effect on Mensur Suljovic. We saw Fallon beat Mensur 2 years ago at the Worlds, and then we saw Mensur sort of disappear in regards to his performances. We then saw Fallon dismantle Mensur. I think it was 10-5 at the Slam in the last 16, just 2 months ago. And then since then, the performances from Mensur Suljovic. Do you think the combination of those, obviously return to Ali Pali with fans the last time he was there was Fallon, and that result recently has had an impact on him getting over the line today.
Massively so. I think there's some serious demons that are still there. I think from not only the first time he lost to Fallon on that stage, but also losing to her again. I think it's completely still there. Of course, he's straight in. I think it is though. I think it's in his head, and I think he's going to have to find a way of getting past that. Whether it's just that he sneaks over the line in one at some point, or what it might be, I'm not so sure. But mentally, right now, I think there's a big block because he should have won that game easily today.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And to Dobbs' point, I'm always going to mention Fallon, the impact that she's had on the game recently.
Yeah.
And especially for me, it was something we all spoke about yesterday in regards to what impact it would have had on Mensah.
Yeah.
And today, if he would have lost 3-2 and it would have sort of done 1-1, 2-2 and sort of done that way, it probably would have been different. The fact that he was 2-0 up and then he's had those match starts in every set then at the end, that's why them question marks for me are probably going to be asked. And potentially a little break now before the Pro Tours and that start of them will benefit Mensah, and we'll see the World Cup sort of Mensah back. But back to the winner in this one, Alan Suter, who will play the winner of the fourth game of the afternoon. But before we go into the fourth game, let's hear from Suits himself.
I've calmed down a little bit in the last 10 minutes, but I'm absolutely buzzing for that because I was dead and buried, and I felt that on the stage, and I felt down, and I felt lonely, and I was looking about, looking at my family. I was like, what's happening? There's just no. I looked up at one point and see my average on the big screen at 82, and I was like, what's going on? But from somewhere I dug in and found the next level that I could get to, so happy days. Yeah, it's put me in a bit of a problem, but I'm night shift tomorrow night, I'm night shift Christmas night, then I'm off for 4 days, but I don't play again until the 29th now, so I'm meant to be working the 30th, 31st, 1st and 2nd, and there's nothing organised because I'm not planning that far ahead at the World Championships. I'm just my debut year, so I might need a few favours and a few guys to look at this and go, it's alright Suits, I'll cover for you. So hopefully I can get a couple of swaps and come back down on the 27th maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately this year we've seen quite a few withdrawals from competitions due to probably COVID, but it would certainly be something a bit different if we saw someone that to the latter stages of the World Championship and have to withdraw due to a shift at work.
Yeah,
but hopefully
can't get anyone to cover me.
Yeah, hopefully Suits does continue his run that he's able to sort that out. And Suits, his opponent in the round 3 after Christmas, will be the winner of Dame number 4. And Charlie on this one, deja vu from Dame 3 moving then into Dame 4 maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so firstly, Juanita has been commented in the chat room about my lack of Christmas jumper. So it's not that I'm a Scrooge, it is just generally that I forgot to put a Christmas jumper on. So don't give God any ammunition to go at me. Don't give him anything to go at me. But yeah, it was an all right game actually. D'Souza's not been in his best form recently, and I expected it to go close. But did I expect him to be 2-0 down and on the brink of an exit? Definitely not. But he came after he then won back-to-back sets with averages of 96 and 98, and then once the train was going and he was at full steam ahead, he went straight through Jason Lowe. But it was impressive from D'Souza to come back from where he was. But I didn't expect it to be as hard work as it turned out to be. And
on J-Lo, Tam, we've seen him that big results on this stage, on the Ali Pali stage previously. This one, when he's 2-0 in front, for me, there wasn't that confidence, especially at some of the doubles. He was missing by a fair bit. Do you think it was sort of playing on his mind that he was coming up against, quite a high seed in Jose de Souza, and it was just that finishing line? Because if I remember right, he didn't have the same opportunities as Mensah. I don't think he got to a place of match start, and in that final set, Jose just run away with it 3-0.
Yeah, it was. I was a little bit shocked that he did start to miss doubles as he did, just because, like you say, we've seen him beat Michael Smith on that stage before. We've seen him beat top players on there and not kind of falter. And it did seem like it got to him a little bit at that point today, and I don't know. He looked. I mean, I don't know whether it's just sort of being a little bit harsh here, but in his face, he looked a little bit lost during the later stage of that game, and he just looked like he miscounted a few times as well. It was like something just flicked in his head, and he was struggling just to focus and keep that level head. The first two sets, he was absolutely unbelievable, and then it just like as soon as that stopped and Jose started to come back at him, he really struggled with the moment, and I don't know what that was today because I really didn't kind of expect that out of him.
And just on Tam, I'm going to stay with you on that. Just on Tommy's comments here around no crowd last year when he beat Smith. Do you think that's had an impact on?
I think he could have done. To be fair, I wasn't considering that in my head. I forget that last year we didn't have a crowd at this stage other than the first day or two. Was it that we had the crowd for last year?
Day one, just
day one, wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I suppose that does make a difference, but it wasn't really like the crowd were on his back so much, or I suppose it's just a different atmosphere and something else to deal with, and probably a bit warmer in the arena because he did seem to be sweating quite a bit as well up there. And I don't know whether having that many people in there just made it a bit warmer and a bit tougher to grip the darts and just feel comfortable up there, really. And
just before we move on to the evening session, Charlie, going back to Jose and coming through this 3-2 win, it was a 96 average, 7 180s, and we always expect 180s from Jose. He's such a big scorer, but there was a part in the game where we miscounted on a 1-2-2. We treble 18 and then went to the 14 when should have obviously stayed on 18 for ball. Going into his next game and then Suter, we've seen that Suter, if given opportunities, will take them. Are you concerned for Jose going into the back end of this World Championship? Because he's not probably found the form that we've seen from him previously.
No, I'm not. I think he wins. I do think he wins. Not to give any predictions, but I think he wins. I think he wins easily. He's got the game. It's just whether he can bring it on the day. For the first two sets today, he didn't. He then brought it for the three, and that's why he came out as the winner. But his scoring is so strong, and that's something they can fall back on. And sometimes his scoring can get him out of an issue when he miss scores and he doesn't really know where he is on the board, which we see very, very often with D'Souza. But I don't think it'll be a worry too much for him. He'll just be happy to get through, and I think his scoring will be too much for Suter. But whether he can go any further than the next round, we'll have to see when he comes up against the real in-form players here at the World Champs.
And then moving on to the evening session, I think Rose has made a comment around the D'Souza interview. We haven't got the Jose interview or the little snip to play in here, but if you head over to our Online Darts YouTube channel after the show, the interviews from today's action are all available on there, including the snips that we'll show you. We've got a couple more to show you from tonight's action. And going straight into that then, Danny Nopper found himself 1-0 behind against Jason Heaver, and then fired off the next three sets isn't the right terminology in regards to how we played, even more so around what we've seen from Danny Nopper. And I'll start with you on this one, Tam. Nopper missed 26 match darts against Jason Heaver, and without discrediting Jason Heaver as a player, he wasn't really pushed as Heaver got through that first set, but he wasn't really pushed. Do you think, and I'm going to touch on it quite early on this one, because Ryan Searle was very much, I want to play Nopper in round 3. Do you think that played on Nopper's mind at all in this game, especially in the early stages?
Quite possibly, yeah. I think it was 26 darts at a double in the match. Maybe not 26 match darts. I think.
Yeah, sorry.
He didn't quite have that much of an issue at the end of the game. But yeah, there were a lot of missed darts in there from him. And from him, over the last year or so, that is not something we really see. He's been very, very clinical and one of the most consistent players around over the last few months. Possibly it did. I'm not sure it did so much. I don't feel like Nopper's the sort of character that would get involved in that so much where he'd be that worried about what Searles said. But I think it was more the fact that he didn't actually need to be that focused and didn't need to hit that many doubles, was probably more the fact rather than anything else. he was a comfortable winner without going anywhere near the standard we knew we can set, and I think that was more what it was rather than anything else.
And Charlie, with Noppy's form, we've seen him. He's come through today, and like we see with a lot of players with their first game on the stage, these players have waited until the last possible night that they could play their first games. With Noppy averaging 88, he's through in 5 180s. For me, the concerning stat is the 27%, but that's a concerning stat from looking at how well Noppy's done. Do you think that will be playing on his mind at all, or do you think it is literally just the I've played my game, I've got the result, I'm coming back after Christmas?
Probably will be, he's got the result, but he'll be thinking, if I want to go any further, that has to be cleaned up a little bit more, because the more chances you give against these better players, the more clinical they are. I mean, Jason Heavers, again, he's another player he's got a free shot. He can do whatever he wants. And it's no detriment to him. So for Danny Noppert and a lot of other players, we see quite a slow start. So he will be bothered, I think, by the doubling, but he now has the opportunity to have a couple of days off, get back on the practice board, and he just has to be a little bit more clinical in his next round, because the game is there. It's just whether he can bring it all together in the next round to then kick on.
And before we move on to game number 2 of the evening, we are going to hear from Noppy. And I can tell you, obviously, Phil's asking the questions, as Phil does best. He pushes a little bit on the Ryan Searle, and we'll see what Noppy thinks of Ryan Searle's comments after his win the other night.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to play Ryan. I saw his interviews before, and we'll see what's going on.
Does that give you a bit more fire in your belly when he says he wants to beat you?
No, not more fire. I play on the same level, and always I prepare for my own game, always the same. So.
Do you feel you've got an advantage over Ryan because he knows that you keep beating him and he knows that record's in his head? So do you feel that you've got an advantage?
I think it's for him. A more problem to beat me than I beat him.
So it's like you'd listened to it before, Cam. Very much spot on with your comments around. However, a lot of people we see say a lot in front of the camera, and what they actually say in front of that does. For him to mention it and for him to bring it up means that he's been listening and it was playing on the back of his mind. And for me, he probably did early on as that day then went on. He then now focused all his energy onto another top third round game that we'll see. And then now moving on to game number 2. Probably out of the whole day, and I was talking to you before we come on saying for me, this was probably one of my favourite days of the 9 we've had so far. Because of the drama that we've had, but this game didn't really have any at all, Charlie. It sort of was a bit too easy for Gabriel Clemens. Don't want to be too harsh on Lou Williams, another player who's had a good first year there into the World Championships and qualifying, but today just didn't turn up, and it just was a little bit too easy for Clemens to come through that one.
It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought Williams was going to go. I thought it was going to be a really close game. And to be fair, it probably should have been, really. Williams missed so many darts at a double. And when you're playing against someone like Gabriel Clemens, who we've been so accustomed to seeing on the big stage, and he's starting to hit a nice bit of form in the last couple of months, you can't give him opportunities like that because he'll snap your hand off. And he did that. And 3-0 is probably a bit harsh on Williams, but when you miss that many amount of darts against someone like Clemens, you're never going to come out on the right end.
Tom, I'm gonna throw Charlie's comment to you, but just follow it up with some stats. He said that it's a bit harsh on Lou Williams. Someone hitting 75 average in a World Championship second round. Do you think 2-0 is harsh? 3-0 is harsh, or I can see Charlie's point is obviously what we saw from Lou Williams in the first round. And his confidence, how much confidence he was oozing from that first performance in front of the crowd. Do you think it was a harsh result?
No, I don't. I think if you turn up on the world stage and average 75, you can't feel hard done by if you get beat 3-0. Yes, he had opportunities in there, and he did miss a lot of darts at double, and he could have been closer. But I think it could have been a lot closer, but I don't think it would have been that it is harsh that it wasn't, because he didn't score well enough to be able to afford those opportunities at double. If he'd scored a lot better, he would have probably still run out, possibly even as a winner, but at least getting a set or two on the board. But because he scored so poorly as well, when you don't hit the doubles and finish up 15% on your doubles, it's just not going to get you anywhere at this level. And I think he just struggled to follow up what was a pretty clinical performance in his first game, and he kind of did a very professional job against someone who kind of played the way he played today. So it was a little bit surprising to me that he didn't put together a bit of a better performance, and I just think it's one of those things that he's going to have to learn from and come back from. But I think he will. He's young and he's a talent, and sometimes you have these games.
Charlie, I'm just going to give you the final word on this one before we move to the Dane that everyone wants us to talk about. Let's be honest, the Dane that was built up so much, as I said, with all the montages. But just the final one on this Clemens and Williams Dane. Clemens now sets up a tie with Johnny Clayton. That is one of the names that we will be predicting because it's on the first night back. So I don't want to go into those sort of predictions yet. But Clemens coming through this one only averaging 86. Yes, his checkouts were very good. And he did punish, he was 9 out of 16, and he did punish Louis Williams, who missed as many darts at a double than what Clemens had himself. But Clemens coming away from this, do you think that he can actually push on from here? And obviously, Clayton coming up next is a very difficult game. But do you think Clemens can find a game to push Clayton, potentially beat him and push on throughout the rest of this week or next week?
Yeah, I don't think he'll come off that stage thinking that was the best he could have played, Clemens. And I think he probably referred to it as him cruising through that game, because he didn't really need to find another level of his game to get over the line, because obviously, as you mentioned, Williams only averaged 75 in the whole game. So realistically, he was handed on a plate to him. But he will fancy the chance. He will fancy the chance, and he will fancy the opportunity of taking on, Clayton, because that will be an incredible game, and I expect that to be a tight one. But he can up it. We've seen him up it before. There's no reason why he can't cause an upset in the next round.
And then moving on to the penultimate game of the second round. Calm, I'm coming to you on this one. For me, after probably 3 sets, I was watching this thinking, please be a semi-final. Please be a first to 5-6 sets, whatever it may be. It's had everything that the hype brought with it. For me, there's probably too much hype on the one side, considering both were world champions. Obviously, we'd seen that Barney has won 5, and we saw all those montages pre-game, but nothing against Tross, who was more recent at the two to win a world champion, won the European Championship only a few months ago. But before we go to the back end of this game, what a start by both players, not at the same time across first and second set, but what a start by both players. Yeah,
it was, like you say, those first 3 sets were just, it was like the years had been rolled back a bit, and we were watching Barney from 15 years ago and Cross from 3 years ago, and it was magical stuff to see at the start. And it wasn't one where the standard was that high in terms of the scores, but it felt good, and it felt a lot better than it probably was average wise as well. It was a really good watch, and it was properly entertaining. And I mean, that 170 kicking us off early on from Barney, we just thought, what are we in for here now? We could see absolutely anything. And it was just a little shame that at the end, kind of as we thought last night when we talked about it, we thought if Barney got the first set, then he may well go on and win it, and that's when he would have the chance. But again, it was a case that even though he did that, once Cross got in front, he crumbled a little bit. And that last set was it was a bit of an anticlimax compared to the rest of the game, but fair play to Cross, who finished it off really well.
Yeah, and then, like I said, so breaking up that game, looking at the first part of that, Tam's touched upon that 170, but then moving into set 2, Charlie, there was a 93 checkout by Rob Frost to win that set. In that, Barney missed an opportunity, I believe, on ball for a 1-2-1, but We saw Barney dominant in set one to break. Pross then respond back in that one. But then after the third set, down into then the end of that third set, Pross was able to take it. And for me, unfortunately for me, we saw the old Barney when he's behind. We've seen a bit of a drop. We've seen, and I don't want to see this on any player whatsoever, especially someone like Barney, but we've seen, for me, it looked like he was quite close to tears that he'd lost that set and potentially saw that the game was maybe getting away from him. I want to spin that. So I saw someone put in the comments around the negativity about Barney, but how much of a positivity can we look at Barney's performance this year? So the game obviously started like an house on fire, the first set. But to come back when a lot of people were saying he was just back because the exhibition circuit was closed, was he coming back just for the money? What we saw in that first 3 sets up until the end, it's so glad to have him back. I hope you agree with me on this one, Charlie.
100%. 100%. And it was a shame that he couldn't get over the line because I really wanted him to win tonight. But the first 2 sets, we were so spoilt, weren't we, with the darts action that we got. Incredible, both players. The way that Barney sort of got underway in that first set, you always knew there was going to be a drop off because he wouldn't be able to sustain that for the whole game. But I didn't expect the drop off like it was. And it was just a shame that he felt, because at the end, obviously, when Cross had finished and he went over to speak to Barney, and Barney just completely was just in his own bubble and he didn't really want to talk to anyone. You could see that hurt. But look, he's impressed. I expect him to keep going. And as he mentioned when he first came back, the only way is up for him. He starts from nothing. So he's got nothing to lose now. He's going to keep going. And I'm hoping that he goes from strength to strength. And the longer he plays now against these bigger, better players, the more we'll see of his old game coming back.
And I'm going to throw up a question that Dob has put in the chat room about Pross and Barney. I'm going to share that question with you. And then while you're thinking about your answers to this one, so I want you to have a good think about it. We are going to hear from Rob Pross. So Dob's got a few people talking in the chat room, as Dob always does. But in terms of PDC achievements only, would you rather have RVBs or crosses to rear? So with that in mind, we will come back to both of your answers on that one. But before we get them, I just want to hear from Rob Pross.
No, I like it when they talk about the top 4, really, because I think it's my first year where I've had the attention sort of taken away from me, and I think it's been brilliant. I've just gone back to my old self and keep myself to myself. It feels like I've got my curtain back, what I used to be able to hide behind when I won the Worlds. But look, it's one of them things that they're all playing great and they can all spin on a coin. They'll have a couple of bad sets, but they're playing really well, really consistently. And it's down to me just to get my head down and just do what I'm doing.
So just heard from Rob Pross. Dave, you both about 30 seconds to think about the answer. I am going to start with Charlie. Still looks like he's thinking about it, so I'm going to start with you, Cam.
Tried to point at Charlie, and I pointed at you instead of pointing at the wrong man.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not while
You're the captain today. You're not going in first.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with you, Cam.
I'm going to say Rob Cross, but I'm going to caveat that with the fact that I think Rob Cross wins a lot more before he's done. So
I'm going to stop you there on this, though. I want your answer to Dob's question. If, for whatever reason, both were to stop today.
We're saying literally if we stop today?
If stop today, who's three would you have from PDC achievements only? I think that's what Dob was saying.
Yeah. I'm still going to take Rob Cross. And I'm going to take Rob Cross for one reason and one reason only. Because they've got the same number of world titles, but the match play.
Charlie?
I would go against, and I would say Barney. Just with the career that he's had and the titles that he's won, I just think he is and has done so much more. But then, and this didn't answer his question. I've answered that now with Cam saying I do think Rob Cross will win a lot more before he's done.
Yeah, on that one, it comes up. Obviously, if you're looking at what they've won, we come up with the point that Martha's is just made, just what I was about to come to. When you look at what they've achieved within the PDC, when it comes to the main sort of titles, I don't want to use the word major, but the ones that really sort of stand out, the ones that you remember, it comes down for the two of them, the match play and the Premier League. And for me, it's got to be the match play. It's got to, and I'm agreeing with you, Tam, but I do think it would split opinion completely. And I think we've seen it with a few people in the chat room, because
the only bit
you're looking at European Championship, what Rob's won is this year. We've seen Barney go on and lift the World Cup with MVG, and then we've also seen him obviously win the Slam. So there is others in there that certainly add to the mix and certainly make it a very, very difficult question. And for a change, it's nice to have a good question from Dob, and that's why I shared it in the group.
I think the one thing where I nearly went the other way was the two UK Opens as well for Barney, which are obviously, it's a big event to win. It's quite prestigious. It's a very difficult one to win. So I nearly went him on that. But for me, the match play outside of the Worlds is just above everything else, and that's where I'd say Cross is especially. And then obviously I know you didn't let me have the first bit where I was trying to dig in a little bit further, but I'm having that bit as well, that he's got so much more to come yet as well, I think.
Yeah, and because of the question and myself, we did digress slightly across what for me was a very, very good day tonight. Numbers don't show it in regards to, and I just want to clarify the point. We did say it yesterday, Cam, that sometimes we sound like we're being a bit harsh on players only hitting around a 90 average or at 90s. This one, Rob Cross at 90, Barney's at 92. The reason we can be a little bit harsh on these is because the standard that we know they can hit, and that's the thing that we've seen. That's the only reason. Someone hitting a 90 average is still very, very impressive. But
that's the thing.
Comparison to where we are, and that's what we speak about. So with this time, and Tam, I'll come to you on this. Barney's 92, but he started, Lod says, with an house on fire. To finish on 92, the worry for me is that 22 missed darts, and it's very much a feature in today's action. 22 missed darts by Barney. How do you think he'll respond? Because from his interview after round one, it was very much isolating, sort of in my hotel room. I'm very much focused on making sure I get the right result at this World Championships, but he's now then been knocked out at round two. Yes, it was a very difficult draw. But how do you think Barney now will react to that and see him into 2022?
I think that's the bigger worry, isn't it? The bigger worry is not so much that he's missed those doubles, because he didn't really miss so many doubles at the end. He didn't get that many shots at the end to hit a double. And the bigger worry is the way he fell off once he was under pressure. That's something that if he is going to carry on and he's going to look to get back to where he was and be competing in these major tournaments, he can't fall away like that as soon as someone puts pressure on him. And if he can't fix that, then we're not going to see him get much past this point, because he hasn't got the ranking to avoid these big players in the early rounds at the moment. So his best opportunity is going to become probably somewhere like the UK Open, where anyone can draw anyone, and he might just get a decent draw at the start and ease his way into a tournament, and then maybe go on a run. But he needs to fix that, and he can't have the head shaking and the looking like he's going to cry in the background when it's not going his way. He needs to just keep that mindset, and that's the biggest thing I think for him, because the talent is still bang on, it's still there. And
then final word on this one, Charlie. I'm going to come back to obviously Rob Cross, who was the victor in this one, and from tight out of set one, where Barney come out, like I said, an house on fire at that 170. Rob Cross, how far can he go in this competition? Because he's drawn Exeter and Darryl Durney. Probably before Durney played Evans would be one he would have fancied probably a lot more. In the most difficult part of the draw, potentially. How far can he go in this? And can he go on to pick up number 2?
Yeah, I'd like to see him have a longer run. I mean, disregarding that first set, he was really impressive, and he already admitted that the crowd took him by surprise and he just didn't settle. But I think he beats Daryl Gurney, and there's no reason why he can't go from strength to strength. If he can match the performance tonight and better it, then a lot of players will be worried, and they'll have seen that tonight, that he really did sort of step it up when he needed to, and it would be nice to see him go on a longer run. But as you mentioned, it is going to be hard, and it sometimes is the luck of the draw. But he's just got to take it one game at a time, and that's what he did when he won it. He just took it one game at a time, and it all sort of unravelled for him.
Yeah, and on come to you on the same question, Cam, because the running that he's potentially got, and he's only obviously potential be seeds, but he could have Gurney and Anderson. Then I think it would be MVG in quarters. Then it would be Peter Wright in semis. It's one hell of a run for anyone to then go on and do it. Do you think he's playing well enough to go on that run?
It's going to be tough, but certainly got it in the locker, and I think he's one of those, a little bit like Rid said in his interview earlier, take it game by game, and on the day you can beat anyone, and I think that's got to be it. It's just don't look too far ahead, because if you look too far ahead, it looks daunting and it looks tough, and you're going to get in your own head there. But just on the day, get up there and play the board, and could certainly beat all of them and have that really deep run and go and do it.
And then moving on to a game, the final game of round 2, the final game before the few-day Christmas break, we saw Chris Dolby take on Rusty J. Rodriguez, excuse me. And Dolby, another game today where we've seen someone go 2-0 behind. There was a key moment in set 2 where Dolby could have levelled the scores up. But Rusty J had that advantage, and somehow, and I'm going to say somehow because the performance wasn't what we probably all expected from Dolby, but somehow Dolby got the win. And Charlie, in this one, Dolby got an awful lot to look at in this one.
He did. I mean, he wasn't playing too poorly, really. His scoring wasn't what we've become used to. I mean, I thought this was going to be a 180 fest. I thought this would go into, we'd see 12, 13, 14 180s in the game. It would just keep, both of them would just exchange all the game. And there really wasn't that. And Chris Dolby struggled. But Rusty let him back in. And realistically, Chris Dolby just slowly reeled him back in. And he did well, just about to stay in the game. And without playing well, he reeled off the sets and managed to take it back to 2-all. So he's dodged a bullet tonight, but in the past he would have probably been beaten. So I think there's that level of maturity to get over the line, and Rusty just ran out of steam in the end.
And Cam, on this one, Rusty J, obviously he was 2-0 up, found himself in a good position, but for his first. Well, it's not his first experience on the PDC, on the Ali Pali stage, because he was here JDC, but his first World Championships on the Ali Pali stage. This was his second appearance, obviously, coming through round 1. A lot of positives for the young Austrians to take away from today. Yeah,
loads of positives. I think from the week, I think he was fantastic in round 1. He was really good today for the first 2 sets, especially. He punished every mistake that Dolby made, and thought Dolby was banging trouble. I didn't really think he was going to get over the line when he went 2 sets down. I thought he was struggling. We weren't seeing any power scoring from him. He looked not anywhere near his best. The first start was missing low a lot, which is never a good miss for him. He needs to be in the top of the treble or just above it if he's going to fire in the bigger scores. And I just think there's a lot for him to take from this, especially on your first appearance there. I think you look at his brother, Robbie, who took him 3 attempts to get a win on that stage, or 4 attempts to get a win on that stage, and they've still only gone to the same round. I think there's a lot of positives there in terms of what he's been able to do on that first time up on that big stage.
Yeah, and just finishing on the Dolby coming through that one, he will play MVG in that absolutely ridiculous quarter. As I mentioned, Cross has got Dernini, Anderson's in there as well. That quarter is ridiculous. And Chris Dolby will know that he'll need to up his game to to get the better of MVG, but another absolute cracker that we have going into round 3. So we're going to move on to predictions for the first day back. But before we do, I don't have the graphic that I'm going to be showing up on screen, but I will run through the top 5 of the Online Darts Fantasy League. I'll also give an update on who is top out of our Online Darts crew. So Ryan Brown has finished after day in week 1, top on 133. Steve Tadman is on 131 in second. Rob Rain is third on 124. Kevin Duff is fourth on 118. And Sean Adams is 117. I was on for an absolutely ridiculous day because he had 4 in today. He had 3 winners initially. I had 4 winners in the end because Delby come through, but Delby was my captain and sort of didn't pick up the points that were needed on this, but I have climbed significantly. I'm happy with. However, from the team at Online Darts, currently in 10th place, and he's on the stream with us. Sorry, Tam, it's not you. It's Charlie who's currently on 100.
I've not done a team, so.
Well, yes, because you missed out. That's why it's unfortunate for you, because you missed out on it. But Charlie, 10th place, only 25 points off top. I'm sure you're already going to start looking at your transfers ready for down week 2, which is round 3 and round 4.
Yeah,
and everyone else in the chat room as well. If you are in the league, make sure you get your changes in. And I think there's 3 transfers, maybe.
I mean,
you get that number before the 22. You 2,
Yeah.
sorry, 2, and then 3 after round 4. Yeah.
I mean, 10 sounds pretty good for Charlie, but to be fair, it's the lowest he's been at any point. He's dropping like a stone. To be honest, he was second at one point.
Who's that? Sorry, Tam.
Charlie, he was second at one point. He's dropping like a stone. To be honest.
It's a marathon, mate, not a sprint, Charlie. I'm sure you'll bounce back in the after Christmas. I'm sure you'll bounce back, and I know you'll definitely love it. Even if you don't finish top of the fantasy league, that you finish above any of us in the group chat, and you'll take a lot of from that. So moving on then, because we are, as Tommy's mentioned, we are into Christmas Eve here in the UK now. We are at 12:10. So quickly, we'll just go down the predictions for the 2 sessions on the 27th. I'm going to come to you, Cam, first. And we have Ross Smith up against Dirk van Duivenbode as a first time back in the third round. What a start to the third round that could be. Who are you siding with here, Cam?
Proper game, this, and it's a kick-off. I wasn't very impressed with Dirk in his win over Boris Kolosov. I thought he got away with one he probably shouldn't actually be there, which I know we can see people bounce back from sometimes, but Ross Smith was very, very good. And yes, I might be a little bit biased because I want to see the logo go on to another round again, but yeah, I'm having Ross Smith to win this one. And I think we're on 4 sets now as well, aren't we? So I think 4-2.
Charlie, to you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go probably 4-2 there as well. It's going to be a good game. Maybe 4-2, 4-3, but Dirk didn't set the world alight, but he's clinical, and I expect him to bring that to the stage. But that's a great game to get us started straight after Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nate. It's certainly a great game to get us started. I'm going to edge towards Ross Smith as well. I'm going to go. He goes all the way for the first game, and Ross Smith comes through it 4-3. Charlie, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Probably before any darts was thrown, you would probably all be siding with one player. Now, what we're seeing from William O'Connor at stages in his game against Glenn, and what we've seen, this one's going to be probably a lot tighter than, like I said, we would have picked early on. Who do you see coming through this one?
I think Michael Smith will win this one. I think I'm going to probably go 4-2. I mean, William O'Connor, he didn't really want to talk after the game against Glenn because he didn't really have to hit a level. He really did just have to get through. But I think Bully Boy will have too much for him. But maybe he gets a set or 2 on the board. But I think Bully Boy will get himself through into the next round.
Tom, on this one, are you going for a Smith double early on Monday?
Yeah, I think so. I really like Willie O'Connor, and I think he's got a hell of a lot more to show than what he had to do to beat Glenn yesterday, day before, whenever it was. But I do think that Bully Boy looked very, very good, and he looks just a bit more. He's found a maturity and a level to his game that he looks really good every time he steps up there right now. And I think O'Connor will play well. He'll play better than he did against Glenn. And I think I'm going to go 4-2 again.
Yeah, in the chat room on this one is siding very much with a Michael Smith convincing win. Only Jack coming in at 4-2. Everyone else either 4-0 or 4-1 on this one. I think Smith comes through it as well. I think it's around what Jack said there on 4-2. And then we move on to the third game on the Monday afternoon session. Probably not one that would have been tipped by many to be a third round game. So certainly a section of the draw that's opened up a little bit, but we've got Hempel taking on Raymond Smith. Cam, I think it's you to go first on this one.
This is a prize package game as much as anything. Not sure there were many that picked this beforehand, and if they did, they possibly wanted the betting account looked at with BoyleSports a little bit. But I think it's a tough one to call. I mean, both have been really, really impressive. I just think Hempel's got that extra gear, possibly. I really liked Raymond Smith's interview yesterday, and it was a couple of days ago after he played, and I think he thinks he's got a bit more to go as well, and he's got a bit more in the locker if he needs it as well. But I just think Hempel's composure so far has been unbelievable, and that beating Dimmy already, I think he will come through this. But I think we go along on this. I think it's 4-3 Hempel.
Charlie, yours on this one? We have a bit of a mix in our chat room.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a few in the chat room, people who expected to go quite far. I think it'll be 4-2 to Hempel. He was really impressive over Dimitri Vandenberg, and I think if he's got more to give, then he'll blow Raymond Smith away. But having said that, it could be tight early doors, but I think the composure of Hempel will get him over the line here.
Yeah, we can see here that Dobbs done for Smith to come through all three. I think we have a Smith double. But I can see, I'm with you on this one, Charlie. I can see Hempel just coming through, but it being a very tight game, potentially all the way. And what would round off, for me, what's going to be a very good afternoon session. And it's only going to get better going into the night session, Charlie. Game number one on Monday night is James Wade versus Vincent van der Vaught. Straight to you on this one, Charlie.
This is a tough one. It's all which, as Gob always says, it depends on which James Wade turns up and which one we see in the first set. But I think James Wade wins, but I think we see this go all the way. I'm going to go 4-3. I just think Vincent has been playing well at the moment, and his scoring can sometimes put him, sort of be the difference between him and his opponent. But I think Wade just about gets over the line.
If there's anyone going to just about go over the line, it's always going to be James Wade, isn't it, Charlie? Always going to be James Wade. Cam, on this one, is James Wade, as Charlie says, going to wedge over, or is the Christmas Day practice with MVG going to benefit Vincent van der Vaught?
As much as I just like to bait Gob into this generally anyway. I know he's in the chat, but I'm not doing it just to bait him here. I picked Vincent to get beat by Adam Hunt, and he made me look an idiot. And I'm not going to let him do that again. So I'm going to back him this time. And I think he's playing some good stuff. And I think he gets over the line. And nobody's going to blow James Wade away. It's going to be close. And I think we see 4-3 Vincent van der Vaught.
No one's going to blow James Wade away. However, Dob, it's only fair that I share that if there's any prediction I'm going to share with Dobbs, it's only fair it's this one. He's saying that Vincent van der Vaught will be blown away as James Wade comes through it 4-0. But there is a mix. There is a couple in there that are down for Vincent. I'm going to go for Vincent as well. I think Vincent comes through it. Yeah, I'm with you, Tam. That's just a night, Dob. No, I think Vincent comes through it 4-2 in this one. Then moving on to, for me, game of the day. Has all the potential to be game of the day. Cam, it's starting with you on this one. Derwin Price versus Kim Huybrechts.
Yeah, this could be an absolute unbelievable 180 fest, big checkouts, everything. If Kim's on it, Derwin Price is in a hell of a lot of trouble here. And I fancy he might be. He struggled a little bit through his first game against Beaton, where it didn't really ignite that game. It wasn't a lot coming back at him. It wasn't a tough game for him to get through, but he'd had his issues getting here in the first place. That's going to affect your performance. It's going to affect what's going on, but he's staying here over Christmas as well, so he's not going to worry about any of that. He'll get plenty of practice in, and yeah, let's have another upset. Let's have another upset. Kim Hybrex wins 4-2.
Someone's topping in. There's only one in the chat room who's down for Kim. The rest are down for Price. Charlie in this one?
Yeah, I'm in the Price. I'm in the Price. I think he wins. I think he wins 4-2. I think he just has too much quality for Hybrex. But I would like to see this be a proper raw fest. Both players going at each other. The crowd will get involved. But I think Price will get over the line in this one.
Even Jack in here. So we got Jack Norton, Jack Darwood, and Tam up, and they're all down for 4-2. Kim. The rest of the chat room are down for Price. It has so much potential, this one. And for me, it is on Tim if he can find that standard. But Price will just have too much for him, I think. And Price will come through it 4-2. I think it'll be quite an edgy start in regards to storylines. Probably see them being 2 apiece, but then Derwin Price after that break, which I believe there's a break after 4 now. 1, 2, and 4.
1, 1, 2, and 4. Yeah.
Yeah, after 1, 2, and 4. So 2 apiece after that, and then Price comes out after that third break, and that's it wrapped up. And then will we see a Welsh double to end the night, Charlie? Tan after Derwin Price potentially get the better of Tim Hybrex. Tan then Johnny Clayton get the better of Gabriel Clemens.
This is going to be another great game. I'm already looking forward to it already. I think it was impressive in parts against it was Keane Barry, wasn't it? So I think Clayton wins. I think he wins probably 4-2. I think he just about gets the better of Clemens. But this game could again be, if you're a slow starter in this, the game could be gone pretty quickly. But Clemens, if he plays like he did tonight and ups it, then there could be it could be a dogfight, but I think Clayton will just about get over the line.
Cam, on this one?
Yeah, I don't think it's that close. I think Clayton wins this pretty easily. I think it's going to be kind and give Clemens a set. Unless it's going to be 4-1 to Johnny Clayton. They played 7 times in the PDC and Clayton's won every single one of them. I think I don't see that change, coming close to changing on the 27th.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm down towards Clayton 4-1 is my 4. What would be very different is in another year with the fans. Obviously, we have a lot of German contingent come over, and it's probably had a different feel to it. But I think on the 27th, it will be predominantly support for Johnny Clayton. I see him pushing on and getting a 4-1 win on that one. Before we wrap up, as we've finished round 1 and round 2, we've had 9 darts. We had 9 days of darting action, I should say. Cam, I'm throwing you both off here completely. I haven't prepared you for this at all.
And you've come to me first again. That's really nice of you. Thanks, mate.
You've been on near enough every show. It's only right that I come to you, Tam. One moment, and same for everyone in the chat room, one moment from these 9 days so far, one moment that really stands out for you. Can be a match, but it says can be one moment, or generally these 9 days, if you're looking back on these, what really stands out for you as that one?
I mean, the obvious one is obviously Willie Borland, and that 9-darter, they got Tommy straight in there with it as well. That is the obvious moment of the tournament so far, but I kind of almost don't want to pick it just because it's too obvious. I think I'm going to be massively biased and go with my guy here and go with Nathan Aspinall's fight back from absolutely dead and buried, struggling against Joe Mernon the other night. I thought that was super impressive, and he's going to have to step up from that in his next game. But yeah, that's the one thing for me that it would have been very easy. He's got the tape there on his arm. You said you think it might have been there as a pre-made excuse or whatever it might be. I think it's actually doing something, but I think it would have been easy to chuck the towel in and walk away and go, look, it's just, I'm not right here, and I need to just take some time to rest it. But the way he fought back, that stood out for me, and it just showed that fighting spirit. And I think it was a big moment.
Yeah, I think there's the reason I asked it is because there is that many moments, and there is different ones. Like when he's talking about Raymond Smith, there's one there from Jack about the Clayton fight back. Charlie, I'm going to come to you on yours. Dobbs is that you tried to convince him that he's from the northeast. Charlie, I'm sure you'll get your own back on him at some stage. 9-dart hero, Charlie, because of all the times that you on our stream with a 9-darter. But Charlie, your standout moment of the 9 days.
Well, I have actually proved to God that Scarborough is actually it does sneak into the map of the north. That he
you say that, but the second picture said different.
He happily cropped out Scarborough and let that out of the picture. Mine's probably Steve Beaton, beating Fallon Sherrock, because there was such a hype over Fallon. Like, there was so much going on. Everyone was looking forward to that game, and he produced probably one of the best performances he has to beat her, and it was a massive shock. So that was probably, alongside the 9-darters and Clayton's fight back, that was probably up there with one of my most memorable moments so far of the first 9 days.
I've thrown myself in a situation here because there's so many looking through on the ones that have happened. I'm going to go with a 9, but I'm going to go with Darius's 9. I liked it the following day. There's a lot of hype around the 9-darter of Willie Borland, but Darius to put that in, and the different type of reaction to someone in a 9-darter and just standing there with that pose. That's a moment.
The pose is iconic. Yeah, I'll give you that. The pose is iconic. Just holding it there, just.
I've got to say that Marcus's comment in the chat room, which is John Michael going bull first with 50 left to save the match.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
What a fight!
There's that, as well as who was it who went 150 and went bull? Was it so? I want to say. Yesterday or the day before. There's certain moments that certainly stand out in these 9 days, and there's certainly a few walkouts as well that have certainly thought it. With Joe Cullen's yesterday was very, very good. But on that note, we are probably the longest show we've done. I know Dobbs done a few long ones, but
I was going to say it's close. I mean, it seems to be every single one that I'm on just goes on and on.
We're not pointing the finger at you, Tam, at all, but we are close to 12:30 in the UK. We are into Christmas Eve at this point. Tam, Charlie, I want to thank you very much for joining us over the past 9 days. Tam, I know you've been with us for, like says, near enough all of them. Everyone in the chat room, thank you very much, as always, for getting involved. And from everyone at Online Dart, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas if you do celebrate it. Thank you as well to BoyleSports for their continued sponsorship on that. But from me, as I said, want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and we will be back on the 27th for the Fallout Bar for night number 10. Thank you, and good night.
In a few days' time.